So, good morning, everybody. Today's class is about equilibrium, or also called as balance. The structure concerned for this sensation of equilibrium is vestibular apparatus. So, what is vestibular apparatus? It is a very complex sensitive sense organ which can sense the sensation of equilibrium, and the receptors concerned can be stimulated either by linear or angular acceleration or rotational movement and gravitational force. When these receptors are stimulated, they can lead to reflex contraction of groups of muscles, which can change the muscle tone and bring about reflex postural movement, and thereby this helps to maintain the posture and equilibrium. So it is dependent on receptors which are cristae and macula. So you'll be knowing which are the structures in vestibular apparatus. So it's a guidance system. You need how you go up and where am I going. All this is guided by vestibular apparatus, which includes 5 sensory organs, the 3 semicircular canals, 1 utricle and 1 saccule. And the mechanism of action is by distortion of hairs on the air cells in cristae ampullaris and macula of utricle and saccule. Thereby they regulate the postural reflexes due to the reflex contraction of group of muscles and reflex eye movement. Thereby they bring about equilibrium and balance. So this is a structure. As you all know, the vestibular apparatus is present inside the inner ear in the temporal part of the petrous part of the temporal bone, with the bony labyrinth and a membranous labyrinth. So as you all know, the inner ear has 2 sensory modalities, the cochlea for hearing and the vestibular apparatus for maintaining equilibrium. The labyrinth is located in the petrous part of the temporal bone. It consists of bony labyrinth, and inside it is the membranous labyrinth. The membranous labyrinth contains endolymph. The composition of the endolymph is similar to intracellular fluid, which is potassium rich. Whereas between the bony labyrinth and the membranous labyrinth is the perilymph, whose concentration is similar to ECF and has high sodium concentration. So this is about the bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. And you can see the 3 semicircular canals, which are lateral, posterior and superior, along with the vestibule, which comprises the utricle and saccule, which is present in the inner ear. So 3 semicircular canals, the utricle and the saccule, and the receptors, the macula and the cupula. The endolymph is present in the membranous, and in between the bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth is the perilymph. So endolymph is similar to ICF, it is potassium rich, whereas perilymph is rich in sodium, similar to extracellular fluid. So you can see the semicircular canals, they open into the utricle, and which in turn communicates with the saccule. So the 3 semicircular canals with the anterior, posterior and the lateral, they communicate, open into the utricle, and finally in turn communicate with the saccule. So the anterior is also called the superior semicircular canals, and the posterior is called as the inferior semicircular, and the lateral is the horizontal or external semicircular canal. So you can see how the connection between utricle and saccule is through ductus endolymphaticus. And you can see the receptors, the ampulla in the cristae ampullaris in the, which has the hair cells. The distortion of hair cells results in depolarization and hyperpolarization with the movement towards the kinocilium or away from the kinocilium. So whenever the direction of the view is how it is placed. The semicircular canals is what we need to know. So this is the how they are placed as the superior, the posterior and horizontal when the view is in this direction. You can see the position of the head which is directed forward, and you can see how it connects with the internal ear. So we have the structure of the receptor, which is the cristae and so you can see in the cristae and the cristae is present in the cristae and maculospecific receptors covering the projecting ridge. You can see the projecting ridge is a tall columnar epithelium with long stiff hairs, which is the stereocilia, and the longest immotile is the non-motile cilium is the kinocilium. The remaining hair cells are with progressive increase in height called as stereocilia. You can see how the height increases. Between the hair cells, you can see the fibers of the origin of vestibular division of 8th cranial nerve. In the semicircular canal, the cupula, which you can see below the dome-shaped blue color, rises to the roof of the ampulla, acting as a movable partition which divides the ampulla into two compartments. The interior as the endolymph and the exterior as the perilymph. In the saccule and utricle, cupula contains many chalky substances. Okay, that we'll be seeing that. So you need to understand that how the semicircular canals, the cupula is having a hair cells, and you need to understand that the sense organ in the semicircular cristae ampullaris. Whereas in the utricle and saccule, we have cupula contains many chalky substances. This is our otolith organ. The cupula contains many chalky which are rich in calcium carbonate crystals. So thereby they are called as otoconia or otolith. Hence the name otolith organ. The otoliths make the thick gelatinous glycoprotein heavier than the surrounding cells due to the so you can see how from the hair cells the nerve fibers are formed along with the columnar epithelium. So gelatinous mass of this is the left side of the semicircular canal, the macula of utricle and saccule, which contains the statoconia or otolith organ. So you can see how the cristae ampullaris, the long filamentous structures which are connected at the top with one another, and the height is increased towards the kinocilium, which is non-motile, and so the sustentacular cell, the receptor cell, with the receptor you can see stereocilium and the kinocilium with electron microscopy, and thereby you can see the outward movement and lateral movement. So there are three semicircular canals. The horizontal is also called as the lateral, the anterior is the vertical, and the posterior. And these are called as the synergistic pairs or the both the sides or the functional pairs. And the receptor is the ampulla or the crista ampullaris, which responds to change in or the receptor is sensitive to rotational acceleration. So we need to understand that how the semicircular canals move. Understand? The semicircular canals the position of the subject, and you can see how the hair cells, the crista ampulla is the projected portion. The hair cells come downwards to form the vestibular part of the vestibulocochlear nerve. So you can see the left semicircular canal and the right semicircular canal. See, the semicircle provide information about dynamic equilibrium. That is, they detect angular acceleration or rotation when you rotate the head, or deceleration during sudden rotation of body, mainly the head, along three perpendicular axes. The horizontal canal, which we were discussing, monitors the rotation. You can see monitors the left horizontal monitors the rotation that is associated with turning to move on an axis or to reverse, whereas the superior canal is sensitive to forward and backward rotation, such as doing a somersault to turn heels or head in the air, whereas the inferior canal monitors the left to right rotation, such as rotation to perform cartwheel, up and down, rough the head on a rough road. Thus, the three axes of semicircular canals are those activated while nodding the head up and down as saying yes, or shaking the head from side to side as in saying no, and tilting the head so the ear touches the shoulder on the same side. So these are mainly to angular or rotation acceleration, wherein you can see the displacement of cupula takes place with angular acceleration when you say yes, no, and you touch the tilt the head. That is, so the effective stimulus to each ampulla is rotation of head in the plane of its canal. So when the head is moved due to these, by saying yes, no, and touching the ear on the shoulder, the semicircular canal and the attached bodies of the hair cell all turn with it. So the endolimb filling the canal, you can see the flow of endolimb fills the canal, or it is not attached to the skull. So because of the inertia, the endolimb tends to retain its original position to be left behind. This is equivalent to the flow in the reverse direction from the head down. Thus, the moving of ampulla is pushed against a stationary endolimb and a pressure difference is created across the cupula. This causes bending of the hair cells and stimulation of hair cells that activates the terminal synapsing with the hair cells. For example, in case of rotation of head towards the left side, you can see left side in the horizontal plane. The initial endolimb is thus towards the left ampulla and away from the right ampulla. It is from the left ampulla and right ampulla towards the left ampulla, turning the move towards the left side. So there is movement towards the left rather than towards the right, and so the movement is thus towards the left ampulla and away from the right ampulla. Both cupulas swing to the right. Vestibular action potentials increase in phalange ring on the left side, whereas decrease in the that in the right ampulla is decreased. You can see. So when you are turning the head, how the generation of impulses or impulse trafficking or increase in the number of action potential. That is the frequency of action potential. So lateral canal, the posterior canal, all these are in different position. So the stimulus or the crista takes place due to swinging of the cupula set up by the endolimb. The combination of increased impulse discharge from one ampulla and decrease from the other form the basis of the direction of the movement. The frequency action potential is afferent now fibers that synapse of the hair cells is related to the rate of acceleration of rotational movement. The amount of force bending the hairs on the receptors and to the direction which the force is applied. As the rotation is continued, the endolymph takes up the same rate of movement as its canal. That is due to the elasticity. Therefore, the discharge in the active ampulla decreases and depressed when it comes back to the normal position. Or this is acceleration. When you cease to move, that is during deceleration, changes occur, the reverse, thus the semicircular canal signal change in acceleration but are insensitive to movements at a constant angular velocity. So all of these are functionally paired. The vertical inferior acts similarly except that the ampulla which is leading is stimulated. The left superior and the right inferior canals act as functional pair, as do the right superior and left. So with the head at rest, there is steady spontaneous discharge of impulses from the 6 ampulla. Whereas in utricle and sacral macula, what is that? The cupula contains many chalky substances called as otolith, hence the name. Otolith makes the cupula heavier than the surrounding due to higher specific gravity. So you can see the otolith crystals which can cause vertigo. When this is displayed suddenly with the change in position, you get vertigo, nausea, vomiting. So there is a clinical relevance. The hair cells, above the hair cells, you can see how the saccule and placed with the saccule, the cupula contains many chalky calcium particles, hence the name. There are thick gelatinous glycoprotein substance which we saw, which are heavier. So when the head is in normal position, you can see normal erect position. The macula of each utricle is approximately in horizontal plane with the cupula, air and otolith rising vertically from the macular epithelium. You can see that in the saccule we have utricle, it is horizontally placed, the macula, whereas in the sacula it is vertically placed. So the hair cells also placed in a different direction. So the head is the macula of each utricle is approximately in the horizontal with the cupula hair cells vertically from the macular epithelium. Whereas in the saccule, in an erect posture, the macula in each saccule lies in the vertical plane with the hair and otolith projecting horizontally sideways into the cupula. So between the hair cells lies the fiber, rise to the rope divided, that is. So when it is erect, the macula of utricle is a horizontal plane, cupula is vertical, whereas the macula of saccule in vertical plane, the cupula and hair cells are in the horizontal plane. Utricle is always related to, they provide information about linear acceleration in horizontal plane, whereas saccule provides information about the linear acceleration in vertical plane, and the receptor is on the macula, and it is due to the distortion of hair cells. Similarly, the kinocilium, which is non-motile, and the hair cells, and the otolithic membrane, which is formed by the calcium carbonate, which are having high specific gravity. So whenever you talk about the macule, so saccule and utricle provide information about static equilibrium, whereas the semicircular canal is concerned with dynamic equilibrium, that is during linear acceleration, whereas semicircular canal is angular acceleration, change in space per unit of time along the straight line. So in general, saccule responds to vertical acceleration and utricle responds to horizontal acceleration. So the macula, the saccule and utricle are stretch receptors, the effective stimulus being the pull of the gravity. The hairs are thus deformed, resulting in stimulation of nerve which lies between them. So you can see how they are, the stereocilia is connected with the, and thereby whenever there is towards the direction, you can see the structure with calcium with the templing connected by myosin. So the mechanism of action is the saccules are affected by the lateral tilt of the head, therefore you can generally see how the afferent fibers from the kinocilium along with the chalky, the cupula contains many chalky particles, hence the name otolithic organ. As you see, the head is rotated in what happens in semicircular canals, how the number of action potential increases with angle. It's a dynamic equilibrium mainly due to change in the pressure from endolimb, whereby displacing the cupula and causing movement towards the kinocilium and generating the action potential. Whereas if you see in the saccule and the utricle, the saccules are affected by lateral tilt of the head, therefore the head is tilted laterally to the right to the rest of the shoulder. The cupula of the right utricle hangs downwards and pulls on the macula. The cupula of the left saccule points upwards and rests on the macula. This is being minimal stimulation. So movement of stereocilia towards kinocilium increases the action potential in the afferent nerve, while stereocilia movement away from the kinocilium decreases the rate related to the resting. The utricular macula is affected by nodding the head up and down, as in saying yes. So when the head is erect, upright position, the cupula and the utricles point upwards, providing a minimal stimulus. When the head is bent well forward and backward, the cupula are hanging, pulling the macula, so stimulating them maximally. So in each macula, each of the hair cells is oriented in a different direction, so that hair cells are stimulated when the head bends forward. Some are stimulated when the head bends backward, others are stimulated when the head bends to the other side. Therefore, a different pattern of excitation occurs in the macula nerve fibers for each orientation of the head in the gravitational field. It is this pattern that applies the brain of the head's orientation in. One more important thing is macula also discharges tonically in the absence of head movement. So there is little adaptation because of the pull of gravity on the otoliths. Therefore, the head is kept in any particular position and the impulse discharge pattern slightly decreases but persists as long as the position is maintained. So you need to understand that saccule and utricle respond to linear acceleration, whereas angular acceleration. So there is a static equilibrium and dynamic equilibrium. Stereocilia bend towards the kinocilium, causing depolarization and release of neurotransmitter. Whenever they bend away from the kinocilium, it results in hyperpolarization and reduced neurotransmitter release. The ampullary hair cells are unidirectionally oriented. So the next is, how is this information processed and carried to the brain via the vestibular pathway? So to understand this, you can see that there are the nerve endings in the cristae and macula continue as nerve fibers which have their cell bodies in the bipolar cells of the vestibular ganglion, which is also called as Karp's ganglion. The central axons of the vestibular nerve enter the medulla ventral to the inferior cerebellar peduncle. So you can see through the inferior. The axons divide into ascending and descending branches which end in the flocculonodular lobe of the cerebellum and the vestibular complex, which is a 4-part vestibular nuclei on the same side. For all practical purposes, this complex, which is a 4-part vestibular nuclei, is treated as a single functional entity. The major integrating center for equilibrium is the medulla. It is concerned with maintaining the position of the head in space. So from the semicircular canals, they end primarily on the superior and medial division of the vestibular nucleus. So semicircular canals, the vestibular nuclei are superior and medial division of the vestibular nucleus, which projects mainly into the 3rd, 4th, 6th cranial nerve nuclei of both sides, controlling the eye movements with those of the head. Fibers from the utricle and saccule end mainly in the lateral, which is also called as diateous nucleus, which projects down into the anterior and lateral vestibulospinal tract to the ventral column of the spinal cord to end directly on the ventral horn cells. So the semicircular canal, which end on the superior and medial, is controlling the eye movements, whereas the utricle and saccule, which end in the lateral nucleus, control the muscle tone in skeletal muscles, thereby helps to maintain equilibrium. So we need to understand, from the vestibular nuclei, the fibers also pass to the cerebellum of both sides via inferior cerebellar peduncle, directly and via the cerebellum to the red nucleus and into the nuclei of reticular formation, via the medial longitudinal lemnisci to the opposite thalamus and hence to the opposite temporal lobe. So this is the vestibular pathway. So the semicircular canals are concerned with controlling the eye movements mainly from the vestibular nuclei are superior and medial, whereas the utricle and saccule are concerned controlling the muscle tone in skeletal to help maintain equilibrium. So apparent impulses from vestibular apparatus adapt the position of the trunk and limbs to the head, thus enabling erect posture of head and normal posture to maintain. Reach the cranial nerve nuclei, the 3rd, 4th and 6th, and cerebral thus helps in visible fixation by controlling the eye movements. The nerve endings from cristae and macula of soma in the bipolar cells of the vestibular ganglia. The central axons of the vestibular nerve enter medulla, ventral to inferior peduncle. The axons divide into ascending and descending branches which end in 4-part nuclei. The large medial nucleus in pons and medulla, the inferior nuclei with descending vestibular fibers, superior in the lower pons. Fibers from the 8th nuclei pass to both sides of the cerebellum, that is red nucleus and reticula. 3rd cranial nerve nuclei via the medial longitudinal bundle, and to the opposite, that is the contralateral thalamus and temporal lobe via the medial lemniscus, and the ventral horn cells of the spinal cord via. So they are concerned with postural adjustments and eye movements. So this is the pathway which you can see how each of the nuclei are explained in detail. There is a complex which is a functional entity. So the normal functions are vestibulo-ocular reflex and maintains the muscle tone and posture, along with labyrinthine reflexes mainly concerned with attitudinal and writing. So you need to understand that the semicircular canals give information about the movements and the otolith organ about the position of the head. So when you are reading a newspaper or a magazine in a moving bus, it puts maximum strain to the vestibulo-visual or vestibulo-ocular fixation. That is why reading prints from moving bus is so difficult. The role of vestibular apparatus in regulation of posture. The tracts that descend from the vestibular nuclei into the spinal cord, which are the vestibulospinal tract and medial longitudinal, maintain tone in anti-gravity muscles and coordinate the adjustments made by the limbs and eyes in response to changes in body position. The vestibular apparatus thus plays a role in support of the head during movement, orientation of head in space and reflexes, which are the tonic, labyrinthine and writing reflexes, which will be dealt in the next class. That is why the vestibular apparatus is sometimes called a sense of organ of balance, which is equilibrium. The vestibular information, after relaying via the thalamus to the cortex, helps in conscious awareness of the position and acceleration of the body. It controls eye movements via the ascending connections to the cranial nerve nuclei, that is third, fourth, sixth. Therefore, in spite of changes in the head position, the eye can remain fixed on the same point, that is the vestibulo-ocular reflex. For example, if the head is rotated to the left, the eyes moves towards the right in order to prevent an image from moving of the fovea. If the rotation of the head continues, the eye once again move in the direction opposite to the head. These movements of the eyes are called nystagmus. So vestibular initiates otolithic reflexes, thereby it prevents leg injuries when a person walks down the stairs or jumps down, or if the poor otolithic reflexes, individuals are prone to leg injuries while stepping off of a bus. So the vestibular function tests are, so when the semicircular canals can be stimulated by Barney's chair test or caloric test, can be stimulated by introducing water at 30 degrees Celsius or 44 degrees, that is 7 degrees above and below the normal body temperature, into the external auditory meatus. The temperature difference sets up a convection current in the endolimb. As a result, pupils set into motion. This technique of caloric stimulation is used clinically for diagnostic purposes. It causes some jerky movements of the eye, vertigo and nausea. So when irrigating the ear canal, the treatment of ear infection, it is important to be sure that the fluid used in the body temperature, that above symptoms can be avoided. So we saw how when the rotational transfer can cause the vestibulo-ocular reflex. So what is Meniere's disease? A disorder involving the vestibular apparatus. It is associated with episodes of abrupt and often severe dizziness, that is vertigo, and ringing in the ear, which is called as tinnitus, and bouts of hearing loss. It is caused by over distension of the membranous labyrinth, probably through hypersecretion. The dizziness occurs because the inputs from the two ears are not balanced, either because only one ear is affected or because the process begins in one ear sooner than the later. So this is Meniere's disease. So there is BPPV, suddenly you get up and you develop benign positional vertigo due to displacement on the otoconia. The crystals are dislodged, there is imbalance. And motion sickness is a syndrome consisting of a tendency to yawn, increased salivation and gastrointestinal discomfort, nausea, retching and vomiting, pallor, headache and vertigo. The sensation of rotation and the absence of actual rotation. All forms of travel, there is irregular motion, particularly sea travel can activate. So it can be induced in most people from unexpected combination of inputs from the vestibular apparatus, which is presumably the linear and the rotational acceleration occurring in an unpredicted way. In sea sickness, this is a type of motion sickness that may affect persons traveling by sea. It may be due to excessive stimulation of the labyrinth, to which the victim is not accustomed, resulting from irregular and repetitive motion of ship. apprehension and other psychological factors play a role. So when you remove the labyrinth, that is labyrinthectomy, it can have unilateral and bilateral. In unilateral labyrinthectomy, there is oblique deviation of eye. One eye rolls upwards and outwards and the other downwards and outwards. What is nystagmus? That there is a slow swaying movement towards the side of the lesion and quick return towards the midline. The rotation and lateral fixation of the head so that the occiput is turned to the side of the lesion. These changes are due to unopposed action of the intact. In bilateral, the individual behaves fairly normal if allowed to use vision. He cannot right himself when blindfolded. The muscle tone is decreased but is not permanent. So we will be discussing about the remaining thing about posture and equilibrium in the next class, about the writing reflexes. In today's class we discussed about the vestibular apparatus, which is a sense organ which is concerned with sense of sensation of balance, also called as equilibrium. This is mainly by the receptors are stimulated by the linear, that is the saccule and utricle by linear, and the semicircular canals by angular acceleration. When these receptors get stimulated, they can lead to reflex contraction of groups of muscle, which can change the muscle tone and bring about reflex postural movement, thereby maintaining the posture and equilibrium. So we saw how the movement towards the kinocilium causes depolarization due to increased potassium conductance, and away from the kinocilium causes hyperpolarization. And whenever it moves towards the kinocilium, there is increased now frequency of action potential, which pass through the vestibular pathway, where you saw how the vestibular pathway is from the hair cells. Nerve fibers are carried towards the vestibular nuclei, which is a functional component with 4 nuclei, which is a complex, and how they connect to the postural movement to the eye and position of the head and towards the cerebellum, thalamus. All this is very important. And you came to know about what is Meniere's disease, motion sickness, and BPV, benign positional vertigo. Thank you.